Hi, my name is Wiley Joseph Dollinger III. My friends call me Joey. Please like and subscribe, and thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, comments, anything to say or that you want to discuss, please say so in the comments. So I want to discuss today this new understanding that absolutely liberates every individual. So to understand that we are responsible for ourselves and the way that we feel, our thoughts and free will, and our own salvation. So you can start with understanding, and this is the evolution of consciousness, to understand that we are an infinite state of awareness that exists outside of our thoughts, objective to our thoughts, because we are multi-dimensional beings that are evolving on several dimensions simultaneously, actually. So our emotional selves and our thinking selves, our physical selves, our spiritual and astral and etheric selves, and all of these different aspects of every individual human. So we're actually an infinite state of awareness within. We are aware of our thoughts, we're aware of our feelings, we're aware of our body, aware of our names and our job and everything else, all of our memories and all of our experience. We're just aware of these things. This is the subconscious, or the higher self. This is where inspiration comes from, ideas, intuition, imagination, and a morality and aesthetics, actually, also. This is the part of an individual that ascribes beauty to what is otherwise mundane. If you can picture some beautiful scene, subjectively in your mind, just picture a beautiful sunset, a beautiful flower, a beautiful woman, or spouse, or some object of desire. So I'll use a sunset as an example. When I see a sunset and it's just beautiful, right? So that is the higher self, or subconscious. This is where you're inspired from. So to ascribe beauty in what would otherwise be mundane, because it's not necessarily beautiful to other people that see it, right? This is relative and individuality, but you're inspired to see beauty in something, and that's an example of the higher self and the trinity of man, thinking, feeling, willing, mind, body, soul, however you want to look at that, but the trinity of man. And religion has been humanity's different ways of trying to explain the rituals and laws and procedures and techniques that connect the individual with divine creation. And as human beings, we are the highest expression of divine creation. We are so absolutely exclusive and unique to everything else in our environment. It's difficult not to notice these things. And so for thousands of years, we've had esoteric and secret mystery schools of initiates and brotherhoods, fraternities, and the genocide and witches and Copernican revolution and all these different evolution in thought. And so our Renaissance, do you know that the Renaissance was the first instance of linear perspective depicted in art? It was the first time in a depiction of art showed a scene from a single perspective, and where linear lines and dimensionality were discovered and created and implemented in art in the 1400s. And this renaissance of thought, the birth of our modern and natural sciences. The peculiar thing about our modern natural sciences is that they deal with everything objectionable, but in no way what is human. And so humanity, we have these very unique attributes, logic and reason, back to Aristotelian logic, and Immanuel Kant, and Rene Descartes' Cartesian first principles, and the thinking mind and the intellect, logic and reason, judgment and what is apparently free will, or are we subject to our surroundings that we react to the laws of cause and effect and relativity? And so this knowledge and this teaching has had to be secret initiate mystery schools to avoid persecution and annihilation, so that it is available for us to study, learn, know, and share and discuss today. And this internet, this evolution, innovation of communication, the information age, or technological revolution, provides the first environment, the virtual, although it is the first sanctuary for this knowledge and teaching to exist, safe from a persecution, and the first time be available to everyone and openly and accessible. So it's a remarkable, absolutely incredible thing to be a part of, to the inauguration of. And we can look back at the inauguration of spiritual science and occult science and the Theosophical Society with Madame H.P. Blavatsky, Rudolf Steiner, and these other innovative, through the 20th century, the Master Key Society, the Yoga Society, and authors like Manly P. Hall, and the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in Nag Hammadi Library. Don't even get me started on that. And gnosis and this understanding. But there's one fundamental understanding. And all religions have essentially been the worship of a higher power or God, and our connection to the divine. That's why rituals and traditions and all these things exist. And so because this esoteric information has the first environment where it can exist openly and become knowable and accessible, we're able to transcend our previous superstitions and dogmas. And so to understand that we are an infinite state of awareness and that we exist outside of our thoughts. In the Western modern civilization, we are so far from ever being taught how to silence our thoughts that when we first start a new meditation process and try to silence our thoughts, we immediately realize that it's going to take some practice, and it does. But it's an amazing, liberating experience for anyone, and it's absolutely fundamental and relative. So one way that we can understand our individual perception and that we all create our own reality. If we look at good and evil, why does evil exist? Why do bad things happen to good people? So we can take the narrative of Genesis, and in the beginning, God, an all-powerful, omnipotent creator. This is monotheism. One single, all-powerful creator created all things, mankind, the Adam and Eve, and the earth and heavens, and everything in existence. Since he's all-powerful, that means that he created evil and allows evil to exist and perpetuate on the earth with man. So if there's an omnipotent creator that's all powerful and created all things, he has the power to destroy evil and does not. That makes the creator evil, kind of like the demiurge philosophy and gnosis and the Essene philosophy or tradition narrative. So if God created all things and is all powerful, he created evil and does not destroy it. So he has the power to destroy it and does not. So that would make God evil. Otherwise, he's not all powerful and omnipotent. Either way, that narrative becomes very questionable and even frightening. So the understanding of that is just now available to us, and I'll explain as briefly as I can. So good and bad are actually two instances of the same thing. They're not opposites. They're polar, individual instances or measurements. They're individual measurements of one thing, an underlying unity, because everything is made of energy. Everything was connected at a point of infinite density 14.5 billion years ago. Everything's energy. Everything vibrates. So you can look at hot and cold, and they seem like opposites, but they're actually the same exact thing. They're two measurements of the same underlying unity, and they're relative to each individual. If it's 70 degrees and I say it's hot, you can have someone else in the same room saying 70 degrees, but they say it's not hot, that it's cold even. So hot and cold are relevant. That's why there's no exact temperature to define their attributes or characteristics. And when you look at the laws of thermodynamics, the conservation of energy, the amount of energy in the universe never changes and entropy always increases. So we know that, like the morphic resonance that Rupert Sheldrake explains, that energy is recycled and that all things were connected. So good and bad are relative to our perception. Why do bad things happen to good or bad people? Well, for something to be bad, the first part of that statement, why do bad things happen? For something to be bad, that's relative. It's only bad because you perceive it to be bad. If you change the way that you look at it, if you look at it from a different point of view, someone else could perceive it to be not bad. They could perceive it to be good. There could be a bigger plan that like the flatland 2D kind of perception of awareness, things that we don't know about. It could be a blessing in disguise, for instance. If you'll see couples go through a breakup and one person is devastated and doesn't know how they'll go on in life, but then later on in life they meet someone and get married and end up being extremely happy, and they look back and say, oh my gosh, I can't imagine what my life would have been like if I would have not went through that devastating experience. And so that devastating experience turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me, this blessing in disguise, if you will. So, and that's retrocausality, which Einstein also proposed with his theory of special and general relativity. Retrocausality is our ability to affect our present moment by changing our future, which is a very profound paradigm shifting a thing to really involve with your awareness and understanding. And so something is only bad because we perceive it to be bad. We think it's bad. We say it's bad. But if we change the way that we look at it or think about it, if we change our point of view, we may be able to see it as not bad. We may be able to see it as a blessing. So like later on in life, they see this terrible thing as a blessing because they have changed their perception. So what is bad and what is good is relative to each individual, okay? And in modern society, what's happened is we have learned to identify with our thinking mind. We haven't ever silenced our thoughts to understand that we are actually an infinite state of awareness, that is consciousness. And so we have this kind of identifying with our happiness to things outside of ourselves, goals and things that we want to acquire, our desires. And so these become attachments. So if you work really hard to acquire this car because this car is going to make you really happy, or you hear people say, oh, when I pay the mortgage off, then I'll be happy, or when I win the lottery, then I'll be happy. And so they work toward this thing, a happiness, instead of knowing that it is the path. It's not a destination. It's not something outside of ourselves. But because we identify with the thinking mind and the intellect and thought, we ascribe our state of well-being and happiness to these objects and items that we perceive. And so think of like a nice car, a sports car, a dream come true. And so you acquire this car, and you ascribe happiness to it. And when you acquire these things or these goals, it does make you happy. You're ecstatic, or especially happy, or grateful, and gratitude, and all of these things. But what happens is our happiness is contingent or conditional on these things outside of ourselves. And since they are outside of ourselves, we're powerless over other people, places, and things. So our happiness in that is temporary, it's short-lived, it's intermittent, it's beyond our control. So if something happens to the car or the item of affection, then our state of well-being is compromised, and we're devastated and upset. And so our happiness is dependent on something outside of ourselves. And that's because we identify with the thinking mind. And to experience and identify and illuminate the higher self from within, enlightenment, and this spiritual connection with all of creation and the cosmos, and unity, this underlying unity that is all things and all existence, is a new understanding that is now available. So we are the first generation to have access to this stuff, and we are finally able to apply this to ourselves, and it reconciles all the phenomena and all the mysteries and all the unanswered, unknown things. And furthermore, it's liberating. It's personally and individually liberating. And it's the evolution of our consciousness and all of what is humanity. We're trying to create artificial intelligence, and we model the human brain and neural networks, neuroplasticity, and understand all these things. We're understanding what is exclusively human, and that the best things in life are absolutely free, and all of the money in the world can't buy them. No one can give them to you or take them from you or do them for you, and you cannot give these things to anyone. The personal human attributes like humility, patience, honesty, trustworthiness, integrity, and inspiration too. So, but it's an incredible time to be alive, and the evolution of our consciousness. There certainly is a new renaissance that we are beginning to see, that will exponentially accelerate, because it's applicable to every individual, and it's a liberating experience and understanding and knowing, so it also makes us responsible for our own state of being. It makes us responsible for our happiness instead of the things that we have, that become their attachments, these attachments. And we understand that we're an infinite state of awareness existing now in each moment. And the future and the past are just constructs for our knowledge and our experience, and that everything in the past has been absolutely necessary. And it's either an obstacle, which by changing our perception and using the law of polarity to see it from a different way, we can see these obstacles as opportunities, and past experiences that we have seen as tragedies and compromise our state of well-being. We can change the way we look at it and understand that we learned very valuable experience from that's priceless, and that was mandatory in order for us to understand what we understand now. And the reason that good and bad exist, the reason that this dualistic understanding, human understanding, that on the physical plane that we understand things that way, is so that each individual has their own free will, decisions, and intelligence, and aspires to one or the other, to ascribe the morals the moral obligation for each individual, so that we can move towards the nature of our choice, and kind of really evolve. So we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and we incarnate here as human beings to experience separation and individuality. Because if you think of consciousness as the source, this infinite, compassionate love, this cosmic Christ consciousness or source, and we're each an equally fractionalized aspect of that. So we're each a little piece of this source of light and love, and we come and incarnate as a human being, as an individual piece of this larger whole that connects us all, in, so that we can learn what it is to be separate, so that we can develop our individuality and have free will and make our own decisions and learn what it is to be separate and independent, and ultimately so that we can learn to experience unconditional love for all of creation and our connection to that. And so it's a tremendous and wonderful understanding and experience to go through, and the meditation practice and the connection with divinity and understanding. And so I look forward to learning, teaching, sharing, discussing, and knowing and expressing all of these things. And they're genuinely, it reconciles all phenomenon, all religions, and all humanity and experience. And so thank you for your attention. Please comment or anything that that you would like to know more about or discuss, or have some resources to investigate on your own or whatever. And thank you for your attention, and thanks.